that's good. You mentioned a few times, you know, that the work is shown in the art context. For me, something I kind of get, I could never really explain what this kind of art context is. I know you mentioned it there, it's obviously not for the money. But if you
I mean, like
a little layman's guide to what really art context is.
Maybe the work, all these kind of photographs series were produced by a company. So that means there was a contract, there was a production money, there was a fee for the artist, which is also not very common in the contemporary art world. If you participate in a group show, there's basically never a fee for you participating. So that's probably what people from the corporate world don't know, because often I get questions from the corporate world part, where people ask, how do you make your money? Because if you don't get any fees, I get paid for this talk, so don't worry about me tonight. I have a place to stay. But it's often the case that even big institutions, big museums, they don't pay any fee for a group show or for, maybe for a solo show. It's different, you can negotiate. But it's a completely different structure how artists live. But what I've meant about the art context, that these things were not produced on demand of the company. The company didn't request these photographs for their campaigns or whatever, because that's also what I'm often asked. So where did they use this material? And where this material is used often by the companies is for press purposes. You know, these things have been published in many magazines which are not related to the arts, in the Vogue, in all kind of lifestyle magazines, in publications about fashion and art, I have tons of material where partly the support came from the PR department of the company, but partly also people from the art world, or I don't know, even like the Walk has a section about the arts, and then they maybe wrote about the project or did an interview. But that's also what I like, that there is this kind of overlapping of different words, like the art world is not so completely out of space, that people also in the other world, in the normal world, see that art can be something approachable and also maybe interesting to thinking about or to looking at. But what I think is interesting for the company is the output, that a work like this, like for example one of the photographs, if it ends up in a museum, it becomes kind of a historical, because it means the museum doesn't hang it away because it's out of fashion, the outfit I have on. Like in the fashion, you have 2 collections every year, and next year it's not interesting anymore what was last year, but in the art world it's different. Some works even get more interesting after 20 years or after the artist died. I think this is an interesting aspect, that something what's already completely out of fashion for the company could still be very fashionable in a different context. And these pictures are still published all over the world, and if it would be just a regular photograph from a campaign, it wouldn't be published anymore from 2002. On the cover of a magazine or in a book about I don't know what.
Okay, that's great. I mean, one of the questions was going to be, what do these kind of corporations get out of working with you? And obviously, I think you just answered there by saying that you give them kind of something else, this kind of longevity. It stops just being a product or a brand, it becomes this kind of artwork, which obviously means that we have to question in our own minds what kind of art is. When you were talking, one of the things that kind of struck me is that if you think back to kind of great Renaissance painters, they all had kind of patrons. They were, in fact, it was almost like a form of slavery, and they were required to paint or produce sculptures over a period. Do you feel that the kind of brands that you're working with, the corporations, are a little bit like your patrons, or do you feel it's a much fairer kind of relationship, or it's actually worse, or how does it compare?
Well, in my case, it's the opposite, that I go to the companies and start the negotiation. It's not the company who comes to me. It happens sometimes as well, like after this collaboration with Hugo Boss, they came back to me and said they've been giving out so-called art fairs every year which is a card which allows 2 people free admission to many public museums all over the world, from, I don't know, New York to London, Tokyo. It's kind of a ridiculous thing actually, because you're just thinking, who travels to all these places, like, you know, who's not from the art world, but anyway, people do, so. And they invite an artist to design the card and the packaging and everything. And what was interesting to Hugo Boss is a company which makes the main profit of women's fashion, but they had this art class already since, I think, 6 or 8 years, and until now they only invited male artists. So I was the first female artist, and I was very surprised to hear that, because I said, what are the other artists? And they sent me the other cards, and it was only men. But that was a separate collaboration where they asked me to do something, and it was, of course, a completely different contract and different fee, was not related to the project I did.